Power Project crew, what's going down? Hope you're having an amazing day. Today we have an awesome podcast with JL Holdsworth. If you were a fan of the Cal Dietz episode, then you will absolutely adore this conversation. JL is an old school Westside guy, Westside Barbell. And I mean, when you look at him now, you would have no idea it's so hard to even grasp the concept today that he was actually such a hothead that, he'll explain it in the episode. He talks about a $30,000 hot dog that he had. You have to listen to it to really understand what the heck that even means. But anyways, JL works with Cal Dietz. And no disrespect to Cal, but when he's explaining the RPR system, he's so dang smart that it's kind of hard for a normie like myself to even understand exactly what he's saying. The way JL put it, it simplified things. So we get into heavy RPR stuff. I promise you, after you listen to this, you're going to really want to look into it. He did a couple of different examples on us before the podcast, and so this episode really just solidifies all our beliefs and how much trust we have in the RPR system. I really think you guys are going to dig it. We talked about a little bit about the Westside days, and you know, like I said, he's so unassuming. You would never think that he would be such a hot-headed person. RPR system has helped him calm down significantly, almost pretty much to the point where he's a different person now. But back in the Westside Barbell days, he explains how he had to fight his training partner in order to continue training with him. And when his training partner didn't, he basically said, "I can no longer train with you." He says there's two things that will happen. Either I will get my way or you'll get punched in the face. And it's so crazy because when you hear him speak, or if you're watching the video on YouTube, it'd be impossible to ever even assume that he was such a hot-headed guy. But Mark confirmed everything, and he was just like, yeah, he was one of the most savage dudes in the gym back in the day. So like I said, this episode had the biggest impact on the Power Project crew because we now implement the RPR system every single day in our day-to-day. And it was all because of the way JL was able to explain the RPR system to us. This episode is brought to you by Piedmontese Beef. It's the best beef in the universe. Humans and aliens both agree it's second to none. You guys really need to try it. It's at Piedmontese.com. That's PIEDMONTESE.com. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject for 25% off your order. And if your order is $99 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Check out the Jacked and Tan box, the Power Project Deluxe bundle. Both of those are available through their gift box sets, and our promo code works on both of those. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into this episode. If you're picking up what JL's putting down, please hit him up on social media. He's brand new on Twitter, so links for that and his Instagram will be down in the YouTube description or the iTunes show notes. Hit him up, tell him what you think, and please enjoy the show.
So you were digging through some piles of some old documents?
Yeah, actually one of our interns was digging through our library of resources, and he just pulled out, it was paper, right? And so on the inside, he goes, what is this? And it was Mel Siff, Louis Simmons, that, 2001 seminar where we met.
In the boiler room of the Bellagio or something.
I think it was a broom closet.
Yeah. Why were?
Because it was 2001. No one even knew.
Yeah. Was it not supposed to happen there or something? Did they just make up a seminar there?
I'm pretty sure. Well, I found out about it.
I remember walking to it. I'm like, where am I going? There can't be a seminar down this way.
Yeah, lights were out. It's there's a clown. What?
Yeah, we didn't know what we were walking into.
It's funny because I learned about that, and that was probably 6 months after I really learned about conjugate and super training and all this. And it's just my personality. Once I'm in, man, it's 110%
going in. Yep.
And so I learned about that seminar, and I was in college. I didn't have money to go to Vegas and to do all this. So I ended up working an after hours club from 3 a.m. till 8 a.m. to make enough money.
Oh my God.
So, my job, at this place was to, be in charge of the nitrous tank. And so I was Wayne State, so it's downtown Detroit. So I drive to I get this address from this guy who says I can make a lot of money working this after hours class. I'm like, all right, I need money. So this perfect AB, I see it gets me to the Melsif clinic. So, so I show up to this warehouse in just a sketchy part of Detroit, which when you say a sketchy part of Detroit, you take any other city and it's the sketchiest part of that city. And so things are boarded. There's nobody around. Like, what? There's no way there's something here. So I go around to this door with this little red X on it, open it up, and just all of a sudden, and I mean, it's just like 2,000 people just going insane. And so I find the dude, I walk upstairs, it's on the 3rd floor, he's at the next thing, he's like, I'm playing college football and stuff, and I just got done, right? So I'm 245, pretty athletic guy, right? So he's like, all right, you're in charge of the nitrous tank. If the cops come, you've got to pick it up and run. And I'm like, okay, right? Like, I mean, guys, like, how much did I get paid? And he's like, you're going to get $100 an hour. And this is 2001, man. $100 an hour? I was like, I'll kill a cop, right? Like, I was like, and so,
it's pretty good money, especially off the books, right?
No, it was insane, right? And then, like, there was another thing was, the people who wanted to get to it then would tip you to get to it quick. I literally made I worked one night at that thing, done, never worked again because obviously there was the chance of getting shot. And so, and then made it to the clinic. But that's the thing. People are like, I can't go. I can't afford it. And I'm like, let's not talk about the things that I've done to afford to go to learn more. But here's the thing. I don't work that after hours club. I don't go to that. We're not sitting here today.
Right.
Right? Like that's where people, they can't understand the universe. These things happen and we don't have perspective on time and space to say whether they're good or bad. Right? We just 20 years later, we're sitting here and doing a podcast because I made a choice to act and to do whatever I had to do to get to a place I wanted to be. Then we meet and it's great. The intern brings it. And so he opens it up and, he follows all your stuff and he opens it up and the inside's everyone's phone numbers written down because there was no cell phones, right?
Yeah.
And so everyone's there. So it's like Mark Bell, phone number, right? Buddy Morris, phone number, Joe Ken, phone number, Tom Islinski, Mark Uyama, right? And for the listeners who don't know, I just named you and 4 NFL head strength coaches.
Yeah. And James Smith was there as well.
Yeah. James Smith, right? And so and it was in a broom closet, right? In 2001 and all of us were there, right?
And it was some weird last minute thrown together thing, I think, like, cause Louis Simmons never traveled at that time. And once I saw that, like, I heard about the super training seminars, but I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to even digest that. And then as soon as I heard that Louis Simmons was traveling to the West Coast, I was like, he never travels for anything. I'm like, I got to figure out a way to go to that.
Well, especially, I mean, people don't know, Louis only drives, right? He won't fly. So, I mean, that's a drive to Vegas from Columbus, which I wouldn't do it. But I mean, but that's just Louis, right? I mean,
he's different.
That he is definitely different.
Yeah. That seminar is what sparked the name Super Training, because I checked out Mel Siff's book, like on the break. And I was like yourself at the time, I just didn't have any money. He's like, oh, you think you're going to buy the book? The book's like $80 or $90 or something. And I was like, yeah, I think so. I was like, I think I got to go, hit up an ATM, but I didn't, I was just trying to be nice. I was like, I can't afford it. And, he was like, hey, you know what? He's like, why don't you just keep it? He's like, it's just as long as you promise you'll put it to good use. And I was like, all right. I was like, sounds good. And then he died.
Yeah.
He died like a month or two later or something, right?
Yeah. That was the last, if you didn't go to that, you did before that you didn't even see him.
For people who don't know who Mel Siff is, why was he so well known at the time?
Well, the book Super Training. I mean, he basically took the Soviet methods and everything and then lumped it all into one book that you could digest. And that was the first time. I mean, the Super Training is right. So people, I know I talked to a younger kid, I'm 41, right? We've been doing this, obviously 2001, we didn't know anything, right? And that was a little while ago. And, so it's funny because people read all these other books and there's great books by people that are coming out today. But the way I look at it is there's the Bible and then there's a bunch of books on religion, and Super Training is the Bible, and all these books on, programs, everything that are coming today, they just take all the lessons from the Bible, which is Super Training for people in strength and conditioning.
Right. Yeah. So we've been talking a lot today about RPR and you've been kind of blowing our minds with it. Can you first kind of give us a good description of what it is? We had Cal Dietz on recently, and so I would love for people to hear from different people on what this method is and how they can apply it into their own life. Because at first glance, you're like, I don't know what just happened. It's hard to process.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, it's something, we talked about this, that is so complicated, but it really, it's simple. And that's what I love about it most, right? So for me, the real simple, easy to digest for people, it really is just a system of daily self-care techniques that allow you to reduce pain, build resilience to the stress in your life, improve performance, reduce injury. It does so many things, but the bottom line is it's just a system of daily self-care. And so it involves some breathing and wake-up drills, which is basically rubbing different areas. And, the simple for people to think about it like this is, you walk home and the electricity in your house controls how everything there works. Well, the electricity in your body is your nervous system. That controls how everything in your body works. So all we're doing is really just showing people where the light switches are in their body. And that's really it. And so people are blown away. And the analogy, when I go into, pro teams and college teams, and we've done, joint special operations, a lot of special forces, and at super high level of performance, almost everybody's using it, right? As far as just the everyday lifter and just person walking down the street, have never seen it, have no clue what it is, right? And so for me, when I go into these teams, people are blown away and and I literally just go, look, guys, 200 years ago, if we're in a dark room and I say, hey, I'm going to flip a switch and it's going to be light as day, you guys would have burned me at the stake as a magician, right? Because no one understood electricity. But we've had that for 150 years. And so we walk into a lit room like this and it's just no big deal. What I'm showing you guys that blows your mind, it's just the electricity of your body. In 150 years, 3-year-olds will know how to do it and they'll know where their light switches are and they'll just be like, yeah, whatever. And so that's the thing. It's just so new. But I tell people it's not magic, it's not food. It's literally just showing where the light switches in your body are. It's really simple.
Where did it come from?
So there's a physio out of South Africa. His name's Douglas Heel, and he has a system called Be Activated. And Douglas has been teaching this for a little while. It's all practitioner based. So, there's a lot, and it dives really deep, and it's awesome stuff. And the main philosophy, though, is a neurological paradigm of how people work. So it's a different understanding. And so what happened was, in 2010, Chris Corfus, who's another one of the co-founders of RPR, who's he's one of the world's top sprint coaches. He's amazing. And so he had the top 60-meter guy in the country blow out his hamstring. So he went back through all his training. He's like, oh, my God. Because someone gets injured, man, as a strength coach, you drive
a hamstring for a sprinter.
Yeah. And so he's going over it and he can't figure out what happened. So a great buddy of his name's Dan Fichter, who I call the international man of mystery because he's all over the place. But, and I love Dan. He happened to be in London learning from Douglas when this happens. He calls Corfus from the thing and goes, dude, I think I know why your kid blew his hamstring. And so Corfus starts going into, did I not do enough eccentric, single leg, all the things that we think of in training. And he goes, no, dude, this is a whole new way of understanding how things work. And so Corfus, just being a learner, he brings Douglas over from South Africa, learns, implements, starts getting amazing results. He tells Cal about it. Cal implements, starts getting amazing results. Cal tells me, we were speaking at a clinic today, he starts telling me about this crazy stuff. Honestly, I go online to look at what would eventually become RPR or some of the basis of it. And I literally get 10 seconds of video and go, not real. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah,
right?
Who are these clowns?
Yeah, I was like, this isn't real. And so, because Cal told me about it, I learned from Douglas. I go through a 4-day course and just, mind blown, life changing. And I come home. Dave Tate, who you know Dave,
absolutely.
So I call him on my way home, and I go, dude, I think I got something that's going to help you. And Dave's had tons for people who don't know who Dave is, but he's a powerlifter, was very high level with us at Westside, and just a lot of injuries over the years.
Founder of EliteFTS.com.
Yeah, exactly. And so Dave has this thing where he shakes really bad when he squats heavy, and so no one's ever been able to help it. And so once I went to his clinic, I go, holy cow, that's neurological. And so Dave comes in, I take him through everything. He goes to lift, and I get a call. Well, first I said, he goes, can I go train? I was like, well, yeah, why wouldn't you be able to? He's like, I don't know, like my body just feels different. And I was like, yeah, no, but your body's actually working the way it's supposed to now neurologically. So go train. What are you gonna do? He's like, I'm just doing some speed work. And I said, oh yeah, just see how it feels. So on Sunday, he had squatted 610 with a spider bar and a special box and all this. And I saw a video of it. Like he's having a seizure. And it's scary. He goes that night, he calls me, he goes, dude, he's like, I just did 700. I go, what? I thought it was speed day because I felt so good. I just want to see what would happen. Literally sends me the video of it, 700, boom. And he's like, I stopped because I was just scared. Like, I didn't know where it was going to stop, right? So after that, he said, you know, powerlifting for 20 years, sets a 90-pound squat PR right? In one day after that. So I'm like, man, this stuff it's everything I thought it was, right? And so, so the thing was, you know, I live in Columbus here, and I have 2 20,000 square foot private training facilities. So we have a ton of people through our facilities every day. It's all private. They're working with coaches, but it might be, you know, a team of, you know, 20 lacrosse players or, you know, 10 wrestlers or whatever, or it might be one-on-one. And so the thing was, I was like, man, this is all practitioner. It's really, it's high level, kind of, it takes some time to grasp. And so this isn't scalable. Like, I can't give this to my people, right? Because, you know, we have a couple hundred people going through a day, like there's not time. Mm-hmm. And so I started talking to Cal and Chris, and I said, well, how would we do this in a team? Talked to Douglas in South Africa, and finally had Douglas come over and basically met, and I go, look, man, we want to make this simple so people can just do it themselves. And Douglas was like, yes, that's amazing, because the more people that have this, the better. And so just started working from there. Reflexive Performance Reset as a company was born out of that. And then we just started working on it, man. And
how did you guys come to some of these weird conclusions? Because I think part of what makes it a mystery is that you're like rubbing an area, but it's affecting a completely different spot. So like the little bolts above your butt cheeks, like kind of next to your, like a little bit above your crack. That's like supposedly kind of frees up your hamstrings, or maybe helps activate the hamstrings. So,
in the back of your head to like your glutes.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Well, I think
that's that seems like some real voodoo right there, you know?
Right. Yeah. And again, it's not voodoo. It's just showing you where the light switches are, right? So here's the thing, right? So the light bulb, they're all right there. The light switch isn't right next to them. That didn't amaze you. Right? You flip the light switch on.
Absolutely.
You flip the light switch on the wall. That wasn't amazing. It's because the wiring goes to that switch, and you just know that because since little kids, we've been flipping light switches. So for us, I mean, Douglas really laid out the system, and then it became simplifying it. Right. And so for me, one thing that's really crucial is, you know, you said activation. And one thing I want to make sure people understand, because this summer, Douglas was here for about 10 days in Columbus, and he was doing a Be Activated clinic, and we were working together on a bunch of other stuff. And we went out to breakfast, and I ordered biscuits and gravy because they're amazing, right?
Because you like that kind of shit.
Yeah, who doesn't, right? And so I order it, and he literally just is like, he's giving me this. I'm like I killed a puppy, right? I don't know what's going on.
That's how I look at some of these guys.
Right. Right. And so, my biscuits and gravy come, and he goes, oh, that's biscuits and gravy. And I said, what are you talking about? He says, well, in South Africa, biscuits are cookies.
Oh.
So he thought I ordered like chocolate chip cookies with gravy for breakfast. Right. And so of course I would look at someone's strange.
There you go. Yeah. Interpretation. Yep.
And so what I realized, and we started to have this dialogue, that what a word means to one person based on their lens is it's the same word. It's a completely different meaning and attachment.
That could be like a derogatory word, right?
Anything. Yeah, exactly.
A racial slang, or could mean one thing to another person, could mean something totally different to another person.
Yeah. And so what I realized was the world that I came up in, strength conditioning and powerlifting and all these things, activation was glute bridges and clamshells and hip circle walks, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these things are all awesome things. However, when you understand the neurological paradigm, you understand that for me, that's not activation. That's a warm up. And you need a warm up, right? I'm not saying you don't need a warm up. You need that. However, that's the mechanical part of just warming it up. Activation to me with RPR is the changing of the neurological firing sequence. And so what we do is a lot of times in our clinics when we do demonstrations is we say, hey guys, we just want to be on the same page. And so we'll bring someone up, we'll test their hip extension, right? They'll lay flat down. We'll just have them lift their leg up. We'll test how strong they are. Then we'll have them do a bunch of glute bridges, clamshells, anything they want to do to feel activated. And we retest that. And you know what happens every single time? Absolutely nothing. Right. And so we're all doing this stuff saying it's activating, right? And it's all this, but really it's just a warm up. And you need the warm up. I still do all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Cal showed us even with like the hip circle.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, it's not really activating. It's warming up the area.
Exactly. And so The thing is then what we do is we have them do breathing and the wake up drills, and then we retest hip extension. So we do activation, how we mean, changing the neurological sequence, and you can stand on top of them and it doesn't move. And their strength doubles. Like we had the force tester we did with you.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that was rotation. You got 70% on one side, about 120 on the other side. And on hip extension, I tend to find most people, in most tests, it's about 70 to 100. If there's a little deficit, a little more. But think about 100%. That force output is doubling. It's not doubling because you warmed up. There's nothing you can do to warm up that will change force output. The only thing that changes the force output is changing the neurological firing sequence.
So here's the question: why? Like why do we not naturally have access to that? Like why do we have to like kind of trigger these things by rubbing ourselves like we're putting on soap or something?
Yeah, well,
washing ourselves. Yeah. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. Which washing ourselves is an important thing too, right?
Oh yeah.
So basically, we do have access to them. And we do. The people who have 100% access to them unfettered, infants. Because infants have no perceived stress in their life. So they have the perfect parasympathetic or performance state. If a baby was, laying here on the table and a lion was over top of it, it would just be cooing, smiling, batting at the lion. Right? But for us as adults, we know it can eat us. Right. So we'd be out the door, right? Like I don't need to be that fast. I should be faster than you guys. Right. Like, and so this is the thing is that babies have perfect breathing patterns. Their firing sequences are perfect because they have no perceived stress. However, as soon as we start growing up, right? Like 2, 3, 4, we start getting this stress. And so all these things in our lives, some of them are big stressors, right? Some of them are just tiny, right? Just an email from someone that irritates you or something, you know what I mean? And it could be anything, but what happens is that accumulated stress, it changes our breathing patterns and it changes our neurological firing sequence because it puts us into survival state. So our body wants to conserve energy, so it starts firing smaller muscles instead of the big prime movers. So for hip extension, your glutes are big, strong muscles and they are built to extend the hip. Well, when you're in survival mode, your body might use your hamstring. Hamstring's so big, but it ain't as big as glutes. Or it might use your lower back. Now all of a sudden you show way weaker, but your body's just trying to survive. That's it. It's just trying to survive. And so some people, depending on the patterns and kind of how they handle the stress in their life, will be naturally much better at compensating. It'll be much higher threshold on force when I test them. Some people who are really stressed out, man, their patterns are so shifted. I mean, these are people that get injured a lot.
Mark asked a question a little bit earlier when you were doing the drill on, I don't know if it was on me, if like, how long will it last? Because I think you get that question a lot. And I'm curious if an individual tends to be more parasympathetic during life than sympathetic, right? When they do these drills, will they generally like feel the effects longer?
Why are you flexing your biceps right now? Right?
I mean, better questions. Why not?
Oh, never mind.
Will they feel the effects longer than someone who's like always anxious, etc.? And also, I don't even think we've defined parasympathetic and sympathetic. So can you define that so people can also understand exactly what we're talking about here?
Yeah. So this, and that's why, when people ask me what RPR is, it's a system of daily self-care. Done. Right? It's just, that's all you got to know. Whatever you're trying to do, you hurt, it's going to help you hurt.
Brush your teeth, floss.
Exactly. It's
take a shower.
It's brushing your teeth for your nervous system. You do it every day, hopefully more than once, right? Depending on your activity. And so, basically though, when we talk about autonomic nervous system, that's, everyone knows fight or flight, rest and recover because everyone I think learned that in middle school. And all that's talking about is parasympathetic, sympathetic. And that makes up your autonomic nervous system. And so it's a scale. You're never all parasympathetic, all sympathetic. It's just there's one that's more dominant than the other. And so for babies, like we talked about, they're just super high parasympathetic. They have no stress. They breathe wonderfully and do this. And so this is a thing where once you get that stress and you get that sympathetic dominance, it shifts. So you're talking about someone who's more stressed out and those things, they're going to be more sympathetic dominant than someone who's super relaxed going through life. However, we have these events in our lives. And so people ask, would it last longer? Would it do this? And that's a wonderful question. When I first learned RPR, man, we were testing every athlete. We'd do the wake up drills, and then it was summertime. So we had 90-minute workout sessions. So we were testing them every 15 minutes. Does it change? When does it change? And so that's where my mind went, because I learned a neurological paradigm. And so for me, it's just like our light bulb analogy. You buy a light bulb, it says it's going to burn for 1,500 hours. You plug it into a light, fixture, and then you flip the light switch off, it goes off. Does that mean the light bulb doesn't work? No. We've changed the electricity. So I never now, when someone talks about how long it'll last, what I go to is, it's a great question. It's just in the mechanical paradigm. This is a neurological paradigm. And so the question isn't how long does it last? Does it last longer? The question is, do we know where it is? And do we know how to get it where we want it to be? Just like the light switch. Do we know the lights are on? Do we know where the light switch is? That's it. And so it's a different question, because it's a different way of understanding. And so what flips that light switch? So the analogy I give is, if you had 50 little kid relatives over for Thanksgiving, and right, like, oh no, right, yeah, just crazy, right? The house is, it's a mad house, right? The kids are running everywhere, they're all over, and they're flipping light switches on and off and doing this. Then the question is like, how long will the lights stay on? Well, who knows? It depends how we can settle the kids down. Your breathing is settling the kids down. So RPR is breathing and the wake up drills, because the breathing allows you to calm and drive a bigger parasympathetic response. And so it'll last, quote unquote, longer if we're breathing in a parasympathetic way. However, this is the one thing with breathing. Everyone I think right now who listens to this podcast is probably like, yes, I've heard how important breathing is. I think in the world, there's just so much. And if they're not aware, just hold your breath for 5 minutes and see if you think it's important. And right, like, it's so important. Everyone in the world, obviously, if you're alive, you're breathing. However, you're not breathing properly. And the thing is I look at 3 levels. There's people that are telling people breathing is important, and that's good. It builds awareness. Then there's people who are telling people how to breathe, and they're spending all this time on it. And that's great, and it's great information. The thing is you have all this stress, and that stress is what's making you breathe improperly. So telling you how to breathe isn't going to work, because you're not doing anything with the stress. You're not changing the physiology. And the example I gave you guys earlier is, if, Mark and I take you and we take you to the spot and we do 2 days under squat and we dial it perfect. I mean, it is money, right? That's like spending 2 days teaching you how to breathe. Then we put 10 more pounds on the bar than you can lift, and all your form just goes to crap. That's like releasing you back into the real world where all the stress is. So if we take you out of the stress for 2 days and just talk and talk and talk, yeah, it'll probably get a lot better. But once we release you into the real world, put 10 more pounds on the bar than you can handle, that stress, now all of a sudden it goes back to crap. So there's 2 options. Everyone's talking about taking the stress out of your life. And obviously that's a great strategy as well. So in this analogy, that'd just be taking the 10 pounds off. Well, the thing is, I've got 3 kids. I've got 2 businesses. I travel all the time, right? All these things going on. I'm not going to remove those.
Modern technology, a drive to be better, a drive to make more money, a drive to, constantly increase everything. That's most likely not going anywhere. It's there. So then you guys have created a system that's allowing you to manage it a little bit better each and every time you go into a training session. It might be maybe a little bit similar, and correct me if I'm wrong, to taking just a second to do a little bit of mobility work before a training session, just so that when you're hitting the bottom of your squat, you're not going through an end range of motion that you're trying to break parallel, but you're not going through an end range of motion that is your limit range. You just have set yourself up so you'll move better for the whole day. So someone might say, well, I don't really stretch because it doesn't really do much for me. But then that same person may blow out their back 2 years later. And that doesn't mean that stretching fixes you from blowing out your back, but it could help with you managing to be in better positions all the time for your training. If you carry that out into your life and you're prepared for each day and you lay out your clothes, I'm now in a better position to start my day because I started it yesterday. Those type of things. So it sounds to me like RPR is like just a great way to manage and deflect all the stresses that are coming at us constantly.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I say it really just helps you build resilience to the stress in your life. And whether that's physical stress of lifting, whether that's being a better dad, being a better boss, a better coworker, a better person on a plane or in an airport, right? Whatever it is, right? And that's what we talked about, right?
So when someone looks at you weird because you're violently rubbing your chest, you say, I'm trying to be a better person.
Exactly. And well, it's funny, right? Is all this, people are really starting to become aware of all these microdoses of stress, and in the strategy that everyone has in this mechanical model, it's like take the 10 pounds off the bar. Well, I can't, right? Because I'm actually going to be adding more. I want to add more weight, right? The thing is the other option would be make you stronger. And that's what RPR does, is it gives you that resilience to the stress, right? Just like making you stronger gives you resilience to holding technique with big weights. And so changing this neurological sequence, the crazy part, I mean, we were talking about this a little bit before, is, I was such a sympathetic dominant person my entire life. And so you want to talk about like, what is the nervous system? What is that balance? Well, for me, so I talked about babies having kind of that perfect breathing pattern and stuff. I would be the exception. And the reason I was the exception was, I was a C-section. And when they actually cut me out, the doctor stabbed me in the middle of the forehead.
What?
Yeah. So I had 8 stitches right in the middle of my head when I was born. So literally, it's been this insane thing where this process of going through the
He's just never seen an ugly baby like that. He didn't know how to react.
I guess they were like, just, I don't know.
He's like, let's just fucking.
No, seriously. I've asked my brother, like, what?
Yeah, how the hell did that happen?
Like, I mean, I've been around 41 years now. I've never heard of this happening ever to anybody. Yeah. And so I asked doctor friends, like, Eric Serrano, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Serrano started in OBG, like he's delivered a ton of, and I was just like, how could this happen? He's like, yeah, that's not a thing. Right? Like, he's like, so literally me coming into the world, I got stabbed in the head. And what I've realized through a lot of this work is it literally shut down every bit of feeling I had. So it was just straight anger, sympathetic survival. Because what's more survival than getting stabbed in the head right when you come out of the womb? And so when I was a kid, 2-3 years old, my parents took me to a bunch of different doctors because I would get so angry. I would ram myself into walls. I would throw myself off of couches. I remember my grandma telling a story where I threw myself off the couch, face first on the coffee table, split my eye wide open, had to get a ton of stitches, didn't cry. Right. And so literally just feeling was shut down for it. I remember I was talking the other night, Cedar Point's a big amusement park in Sandusky. It's a couple hours from here. So I went there as
Tim Harold's from there, right?
Yeah.
Big Tim.
Big Tim.
Big Tim, he stuffed me in the bathroom at Westside and he just stood next to the door and.
Well, he's like 450 pounds at that time.
I couldn't
get
out.
You can't move him.
6'8", 450, just like leaning on the bathroom door and I'm just in there and it just smells like just death in there.
It was not a good place to be.
No.
It was not a good place to be.
Sandusky, go back to it.
No, so the amusement park, they had the biggest, tallest, fastest roller coaster. So you get 3 hours to ride this thing. I rode it and I was just, yeah, that wasn't cool. So then I get in line another 3 hours and I'm like, I'm going to enjoy this ride. So what I do is I basically take, and when they do, and I kind of stand up like this and I put my hands here so the bar won't come down because I'm like, well, if I can fall out, that's going to make it fun. And so literally go to the first hill and I just start flying out and I grab the bar and I was like, yeah, now we're having fun. Right? Like, I mean, and I have a million stories. Like in high school, I was literally like a Grand Marquis 4-door. So the roof's probably as long as this table. Right? So I'm surfing on top of the Grand Marquis. We're doing 60 down a dirt road and we hit 2 deer. Right? Like I have a million, but for me, riding in the car, like that was bored. Right? So I'm like, I'm going to spice this up. So for me, right, riding, like,
I'm going to get on the hood. It's going to be great.
I did get on the hood and that wasn't fun enough. So then I stood on the roof. And so and that's just how I lived my entire life. And so for me, it was just such survival all the time that even to feel something, I had to go to super extreme. Right? I go to Westside. Let's put 1,000 pounds on her back. Right? Like put 800 pounds over my face. Right? It had to be extreme, extreme, extreme. And so when I got into, I learned Be Activated and then, we co-founded RPR and I'm now, because the way I talk about it is RPR it's like brushing your teeth. You do it every day to take care of your nervous system. Be Activated is like going to the dentist, right? It's stuff you can't do yourself. You kind of go to just see if you've been doing everything right and then to get some stuff done that you can't do yourself. And so for me, it's been, going through Be Activated, doing RPR every day to keep myself in a great place. And I just got into this because I wanted my body not to hurt. I've had 12 surgeries, 2004, I was doing 1,100 pound squat, herniated L5S1. That's what took me out of, professional. I had the 4th highest total in the world all time. I was, at that time, I had the biggest total at Westside. I had the biggest bench, like Westside versus the World, that movie. There's that old clip of me writing my, record for a 775 bench on the board when they talk about putting your name on the record board. I was on top of the world, right? I was going to be going into that meet. I was going to be the first non-super heavyweight. Gary Frank had totaled 26. I was going to be the second guy to total over 2,600. And this is, 2004.
275 weight class?
275, yeah. And so at that time, I was on top of the world. And so basically a guy came to the gym. I was only supposed to squat 900. And, he basically, well, this. He tried to jump in and squat with the morning crew.
Yeah.
That's a no-no.
Yeah.
Right. That's a no. And the reason I goes to the point. The reason I was training the morning crew was when I first moved to Columbus, I lived on a guy's couch in the night crew. And we were training and something, who knows what happened. And I called him outside of the gym to fight. So I'm standing outside the gym, shirt off, just screaming, calling him out. And he refused to come out and fight me. And so I basically was just like, cussing. And I was like, I won't train with someone who won't fight. And I literally went to the morning crew because he wouldn't fight me. And so I was like, get out here. You kick my ass, we go back to training. I kick your ass, we go back to training. But if you don't fight me, I'm done. And so he wouldn't fight me. And so I went to the morning.
It sounds very rational to me.
Yeah. But that, in my mind, right? Yeah. That made sense. Like I went to the morning crew. I was like, yeah, he wouldn't fight me. So we're going to train here. Right. Like, and so, but then you have guys like Chuck Vogelpool, guarantee I call Chuck outside the gym. We're fighting. Right. Like right. Chuck ain't backing down from a fight. And so, but that's how I live my life. And so this kid tried to squat with us and I was only supposed to go 900 and I just kept piling weight on because I said, you're going to have to do everything I do. And so my goal that day was he had to leave in an ambulance. And instead, I herniated L5S1. And then I'm done with competitive powerlifting for 10 years. And it was awful, man. I went from being one of the strongest guys in the world ever. I woke up the next day and I couldn't put my underwear on myself. Right? So I'm talking, and this is, people ask me, with RPR and the stuff we teach, it's, why don't you guys just do this and don't teach other people and just why give this information? Why teach other people this stuff? And for me, I think what it really comes down to is that after I herniated that disc, it was 6 years of it was hard to shower, getting out of bed. Think about it, right? Up to that point, we were talking all the time.
Yeah.
We were talking all the time. That 6 years, you didn't hear one thing from me.
Right.
I literally might as well have been in prison because I didn't do anything for that 6 years. And so for me, I started the Spot Athletics in 2010 and that pulled me out. It gave me purpose again. It gave me purpose. And, finding this stuff, I didn't get into be activated in RPR and all this because I thought it was going to do anything mentally or stress. I didn't understand resiliency to stress. I didn't even understand I had an issue punching people in the face all the time. Right? Like I thought that was just a thing. Like, I don't know. I just do it more than others. Right. And so for me, it was crazy because I got into it for all these physical things, reduce injuries, feel better, performance, and it does all those things. But for me, that's 1 hour of my day. For the other 23, I have to be a professional human being. And it's made me a better dad. It's made me a better boss. My business has exponentially grown because the way I can communicate with people and talk to people. And I just couldn't do that before. Before I would either you were going to give me what I want or I was going to punch you in the face, right? Like there was two options. So I avoided conversations because I didn't want to go to jail again.
How much did you weigh when we met in 2001, do you think?
That was about the start.
Like 230 or something, or 240?
I was probably Yeah. Oh, because I got done with football. I started running a lot. Yeah. So I was probably 225 or so when we met. Yeah, I was probably 225.
Yeah, and I was probably about the same weight, right?
Yeah. I think you might even like 205 or something. Yeah. It was right. You were about 205 at that time. Yeah. Because you were doing wrestling and you were really doing all that. So, and then for me, at Westside.
Yeah, it's weird that we met at this seminar and then we ended up both going to Westside and training there. And he was crushing it while he was there. I wasn't hitting big weights until I started figuring out my own shit later on. But yeah, it's an interesting kind of turn of events. I show up to Westside years later and you're 280 or whatever, and I'm 240 or whatever it was.
Yeah. Right now I'm about 260. I've been doing, jiu-jitsu and stuff again. And my goal is really just keep coming down. There's no but at my biggest at West, I was 310 pounds and I was was 15% body fat, 310 pounds. Like I was a very large individual.
How long did you train at Westside for?
So I was there 2000. So we did that thing in 2001. I moved there in 2002. And right. so from 2002 to 2004, that was my competitive. And so it was short, right? Like this is burning star, man. Like 2 years, set the world on fire and then hurt myself. And that's really what being synthetic's about, right? That survival. I talk to a lot of NFL guys, like they say, right? There's two types of guys in the NFL. There's guys that make it a day and there's guys that make it 10 years. And the vets know in the first week which guy you're going to be. And it's all based on, are you just highs, lows, all over the place, or are you just nice and set? Are you parasympathetic or are you sympathetic? Guys that are in survival mode aren't going to make it. And that's in life. That's whether it's NFL, that's whether it's business. That's just this way it is.
Yeah. So what you're talking about with RPR, it made you way more calm.
Yeah.
What I saw you do with Stephen Bell earlier, for someone like me, believe it or not, I know I've been speaking a lot on this podcast right now, but I'm actually an introvert. So for what you did for him, because he, for obviously people listening, he was sitting in the corner and he just like, I just wanted to be out of the way. But you broke it down and explained like, no, like you're comfortable over there despite what you think in your head. You said psychologically you sat over there because you're more comfortable being away from people. When I saw that, I instantly started thinking about introverts, because if you can kind of get rid of that block of not being like worried about being close to people, that would do so much for somebody like me.
Well, the thing is, and so I'll say this phrase, and I said it to you guys, and trust me, it took me all of 3 years to really wrap my head around this. Your physiology drives all your behavior. And whether you like someone, where you sit, what you do, how you talk to people, it's driven by
physiology being
so your body essentially. So think of physiology as your body, your nervous system. And so essentially, we're survival creatures. The one thing we're hardwired to do is to survive.
So this might kind of lead into a little bit of when someone says someone's fat and lazy, they're not necessarily, right? Because they're driven by their they're stuck on their couch because they're stuck on the couch, and they're not going to be able to all of a sudden be hit with a spell of motivation that gets them out running.
Well, so that's interesting. There's everyone's heard of fight or flight. There's actually another mode, and pardon me, it's a very lesser known, but it's freeze. So this comes from something called polyvagal theory. And so it's in reptiles, they have it, and we still have it as a character. And I truly believe that a lot of depression. So in 2004, man, I was on top of the world. You know what I mean?
Can you say what that's called again?
Polyvagal theory.
Polyvagal theory. Okay.
And so, essentially it's just freeze, right? So the simple is, and this is one of my things. I hate using big words. Like to me, I love making things simple. So you think about a lizard. It sees a hawk overhead. It basically defecates itself and drops its heart rate almost like it's dead. That's freeze. And we still have that. And so that's what I believe happened to me in 2004 was I was so stressed by being hurt. I was in so much pain. I had so many issues. I had absolutely no stability physically, physiologically. And so I went into freeze mode. And then people call it depression. But it's really a physiological state. So that person sitting on the couch, it's not that they want to be there, that they want to be fat. And that's what people use this psychology. Oh, you just got to be but literally their physiology won't allow them. And for me, it wasn't that I'm not a different person. Like I'm a very caring person. I really do. I love people. I mean,
You're probably actually very sensitive. Like a lot of times people that want to punch someone in the face, you're having some issues explaining your emotions and stuff. And you're probably, you probably would internalize stuff by overreacting to something because you're sensitive.
Well, and
it would set you off. And you'd be like, why did this person piss me off?
I look at it. So people use the sensitive, and I think that's a wonderful psychological way to rationalize it. I look at it much different now. I don't look at it as sensitive. What I look at is it's about physiological safety. And so if I don't have safety within myself, then I have to actually destroy your safety so that I feel safe. And so now when people approach me or get mad or want to anger me, I'm like, that's cool. Because I actually have safety within myself. Whereas before, I would tear them down, make them cry, punch them in the face, do all these things. And so the crazy part about it is, now my philosophy is how people treat others is just a reflection of their physiology, not a reflection of your behaviors. And so this is the thing. And now because I feel this way, when someone treats me a certain way, instead of getting pissed off I think, holy cow, man, this person's really hurting. Because when I was punching people in the face, the bottom line is hurt people hurt people. And that was the thing. Like I literally, I look at it as this trifecta. So I'm born, stabbed in the head, right? So that now all of a sudden that shuts down all my feelings. I grow up, when I was young, we talked this, my mom was a cameraman, so we moved around, right? So, I moved 11 times from 2nd grade to 9th grade, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, different schools. Then on top of that, when I was a little kid, some stuff that I've recently dealt with, there was, a lot of moving, there's a lot of moving parts. There was some sexual abuse stuff that happened, right? And so I buried that, right? I don't want it. So you have all these things and all this turmoil. And so for me, I had absolutely no safety in life. So how did I display that? How did I gain my safety? I got big and strong and I beat everyone up. And so when I walked into a room, everyone was scared of me because they didn't know, right? Like even my good friends were like, on a bad day, he might punch me, right? Like it just is, that's what it was. Like Dave talked about, you came into Westside and everyone's like, that dude's just crazy. And it was because I had absolutely no safety. So I had to dominate everything around me. And it was my physiology. It wasn't because I hated people. It wasn't because I was this mean a-hole, even though that's what it displayed as. It was literally because my physiology was driving me to gain some kind of stability. And so you talk about being an introvert. I know because you've mentioned it, that's probably something you've worked on a lot. And I'm sure it's gotten better because you drew awareness to it. Until you change your physiology, it truly won't shift. And the cool part is changing your physiology, that introvertedness, it changes automatically. It changes subconsciously without actually working on it. And that, because that's what happens with physiology. So you say I was sensitive. It wasn't that I think that's a lot of psychologists, counselors, that's where they would go because they look at that. To me, when you look at the physiology direction, I understand now it's because I had no stability within myself. So I had to dominate out and gain that by dominating everyone else. And so it's just a different lens of understanding this stuff. And, it's crazy because, we have in sleep is such an issue for so many people. So we have CEOs, they come in,
I bet when you were that angry, you probably weren't sleeping well either. Right?
Dude, not
looking
fit.
back, you're like, man, even if I just got, because again, if you have your rest, you'll physically feel better. Feeling better is where it's at, right?
Yeah. And so it's funny, we have CEOs that wear Whoop bands or different tracking, auras, all these things, Apple Watch.
Yeah, I have an Aura ring. Yeah, he's got an Apple Watch. Yeah.
So you go through RPR before you go to bed every single time. HRV gets better. Resting heart rate gets better. You actually start to get deep sleep. All these things start to shift in your sleep patterns. And so it's not because you're thinking, I want better sleep, right? Everyone wants great sleep, but we have all these sympathetics, these survival, these microdoses of stress that are hitting us all day long. And then if we can't let that go, right? If we don't have good strategies just inherently, which I definitely didn't, and then all of a sudden that stays with us. And now we're taking Ambien to go to sleep and we're doing these things. So we have a lot of CEOs that we work with. They'll walk in, heart rate will be, 73, 74, go through RPR, 4 minutes, boom, 52 heart rate. Now we start training, right? They do it before they go to bed. Boom, stop taking Ambien, right? Like you just have all these crazy things. And so to your point, 100%, it's your physiology is driving that introvertedness, and it's because of certain patterns. And so, the psychology of working on it is important. It's good. It builds awareness, but the physiology is context, and awareness without context becomes guessing.
I just see it so beneficial for I don't know if anybody will be able to make this connection, but like as a photographer, getting pictures up close with people is like real stressful because it's like, okay, here's JL. Okay, I'm going to take a picture, but I know he knocks people out. Like, is he going to turn on me? But if, I did RPR and all of a sudden I don't feel so uncomfortable being close to somebody, that will benefit, photographers everywhere just by doing that one simple thing.
No, and it's so crazy. Even the guy, there's a guy, Matt Bernowski, so he's worked with me at the spot since day one. He's been, it'll be 9 years this fall. And how he's made it that long with the way I used to be, I don't even know. Like we were doing board presses one day and he wasn't paying attention to the board as well. I got up, front kicked him in the chest. Right. And I was just like, if you don't care about me, I don't care about you. And that's just how I was, right? Like how he made it through, like the dude's a saint. And, it's just, and it's so funny. Like
there is a certain way to hold the boards, though. in your defense,
only a power lifter, right? They were like, I get it, I kind of get it, right? And so, and so that's. But just now, I mean, I went to an NFL team. There was a kid who interned with us and has made his way up, and he's a strength coach with the NFL team. And I was doing some stuff, and we had dinner, and he just like, dude, you are a different human being, right? He was like, man, they're so lucky because I got yelled at a lot, right? Like, and that's how it was. And the thing was, I think the people who got to know me, they got through all that and they learned, hey, JL's a really good dude. However, like you had to put up with quite a bit of stuff to get through those, right? Because I didn't have safety. So it took me a long time to trust and to do these things. Whereas now it's like, okay, like this is just who I am. And, so for me, like I said, the injury prevention, I said we have, college teams, NFL teams, high school teams that literally, my son's wrestling team, his middle school wrestling team, there's 80 kids on the team, huge middle school wrestling team. So the head coach is a personal trainer, did our level 1 online for RPR, implements it with the team. What was cool is I was not involved in the process, right? So, first wrestling season in 13 years, I didn't have one concussion. Right. And so that's amazing because it's my son and his friends. What's even cooler is at the high school, the basketball team does it, the football team, all these people, and they don't even know that I co-founded it. Right. And my son's in the school. Right. And finally the dude basically he was like, hey, you guys are implementing all this stuff. The dude who co-founded, like his son goes to our school. So let's just talk to him. But, it's amazing because I mean, like I said, we have, strength coach, been a strength coach for football for 40 years, 4-time NFL strength coach of the year, implements RPR first season in 40 years, not one soft tissue injury. And those things are amazing, right? Because that saves millions of dollars. It's people's livelihood. I mean, every powerlifter I've ever shown, they set PRs, right? Those things are amazing, but that's this much of your life, right? That other 23 hours, that's to me, that's where it's changed. RPR's changed me the most in that time.
Are you aware of any studies that show, I know that you mentioned the better resting heart rate and things like that, HRV improvements. Are you aware of any testing that's been done in terms of I don't know, say blood glucose levels or anything from because it must be doing something to your hormones and stuff. I wonder. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if you'd be more resilient to unhealthy food or something. I don't know.
Well, so it's interesting. I mean, we're getting a decent amount of people who are now starting to do some research. One of the interesting things is that you can't measure a neurological firing sequence as it's happening. There's just not. I'm sure in 10 years, someone way smarter than me will come up with something. What we can measure is outcomes. So
that thing that I had to shove up my ass earlier, that was. Never mind.
I'm glad you believe that was RPR.
Yeah.
And so you're the one who told me we had to do it. I thought that was something you knew.
We all did it, right? Yeah. We all still left it in, right?
And so the thing with it, right, is that the people that are doing the research, like FMS, a lot of people like that, right? So kid did his master's thesis, right? Statistically significant change in FMS score instantly, right?
What's FMS?
Functional movement screen. So
Got it.
It's a way that some people really assess how people move. And we have a lot of we have clients at Spot Athletics who have come off blood pressure medication, right? I mean, so there's a lot of anecdotal stuff and there's a lot of results based, right? I mean, this team implements it, they drop soft tissue injury by 50%. This team implemented, they dropped concussions by 75%. We had a pro hockey team implement it. They dropped their man games loss from 360 to 180, right? 50% drop in man games lost. And so we have all this amazing anecdotal
data.
Yeah,
it makes me wonder what's possible. Maybe you can help someone's digestion.
Oh, dude. No, it changes. So for me, it's funny. So, okay, no one likes to talk about poop, but we all do it.
Oh, we talk about poop all the time.
Often.
Yeah. So here's the thing. RPR, if there's one area that literally I never expect is pooping.
I had a big shit right after he touched me, by the way. I don't know if you guys remember I went to the bathroom, but let's keep going.
Well, but here's what it does. So when you have these firing patterns that aren't the proper patterns, it locks everything up. You go into implosion and then everything can't move as well. So when I used to sit down and go, it was 1,000-pound squat, right? It was just, right? And so
there's some real power behind that.
Right?
Yeah. And so, really bear it down on that.
And that was it. Like, I'd be like, oh, that's not too much blood. And so, but that was like every day for me, right? And so to me, it was just, this is how life is. Well, then all of a sudden I started doing this and I'm just like, wait, it just happens. Yeah. Because with doing the breathing and wake up drills, you set those patterns in the right sequence. And then again, when we talk, people talk parasympathetic, sympathetic. Don't even forget about those terms. We don't even use them with our athletes. We talk about two states, performance and survival. So if you want to go to the bathroom and poop, nice, easy, flow out, that's performance. Survival is there's a bunch of blood, right? And so no matter what you want to do, digestion, poop, sleep, lifting heavy ass weights, whatever you want to do and perform at your best, RPR will help you do it much better. And that's the thing is the cool part is it doesn't change, right? You don't change what you eat. You don't change how you train. You still use hip circle, right? We still use all that stuff. You still use everything, right? We still use your slingshot. You do all that stuff that you already know because this is something you do before all the stuff you're already doing, and it makes it all way more efficient, way more effective. And that's what's cool about this is like for people out there who like, I love my training method. I love this. You literally don't change anything. It's literally whatever you do now, put in RPR before it, this gets better. I mean, and that's what's so cool about it.
What's like the weirdest thing that you've seen, with RPR? Because like we were rubbing our cheeks and shit like that, and like some of it gets to be a little strange, for people that have never seen some of it before. What's kind of the strangest or most remarkable thing that you've seen where you're like, okay, even though I've been doing it for years, that still doesn't make any sense?
I'll be honest, man. Even when we just did the rotation test and you got 70% and 100%, that still blows my mind. I mean, even just the stuff that like intellectually I know most likely there's going to be this kind of result because I've been doing it for so long and it happens, right? And the cool part is it's not me. I'm not the guru magic. Like this is tens of thousands.
It's already in your body. You just have to wake it up.
Exactly, right? It's just allowing it. It's allowing your body. So this is what I say is RPR doesn't fix anything. It allows your body to optimally function. That's it. You have everything, right? It's like these lights. If these were 5-watt light bulbs, we turn the electricity on, it'd be super dim in here. However, because they're higher wattage, it's brighter. So you have to do all your training to get more wattage. This just allows the electricity to run the right way so you can optimize and show what you have.
Kind of unlocking another level.
Exactly. Yeah. And so whether it's flexibility, whether it's strength, whether it's conditioning, when you do RPR, it instantly gets better. And because all of those things, flexibility, strength, and conditioning or endurance are all dictated by your nervous system. That's what controls all three of those things. And so what's crazy to me, and this was the light bulb, was I learned about the neuromuscular system in school. He had everything I did before I learned this. We skipped the neuro part and went right to the muscular. Mm-hmm. So how is it that the first part of the word's neuro, but everything we're doing in our training skips it? It's crazy, right? Like when I was like, I couldn't believe it.
Seems like there's still not that much known. I mean, there's a lot known just because of all the experimentation, but
no, it's
the central nervous system is like, it's a fucking guessing game.
Yeah, it's a baby field. That's what's so crazy about RPR. It's
like the Skogile tendon or whatever like there's weird things you can tap into that people still don't know how to even and that really truly access.
Well, that's the cool thing about RPR is it's such a simple system and you do it all yourself and anybody can follow it, right? That's what's so amazing about this is that there's this great, so you talk about the most amazing thing I saw. So I can't explain why this happens, I have some ideas, I have some thoughts. Do I have a study that definitively proves it? 100% no. So I had a guy on my staff, Cal was in, we were doing a clinic and we were doing some vision stuff. And so this gets to our level 2 stuff, but he had a neurological issue and we literally with a red shaker, we basically were like, boom. And he's like, I can't see that. So he had a complete blind spot in his entire world. He literally, it's red, right? I mean, and he literally could not see it. So he could see the shaker, couldn't see the shaker. It was literally his whole body shut off that part. And so we went through a sequence.
And that's something that like he lived his life with.
Yeah. So everything he did, right? So it's funny because he played baseball and he was like, oh my God. He was like, every time I missed, like when he would turn this way, he would screw up. Like, so he ended up learning how to change his body. So he never had to turn this way. He would always, right? So you learn how to move around these things. You don't know they're there, but that's why I say physiology drives behavior. Mm-hmm. And so we went through and reset it, and literally, dude, all of a sudden he could see it. His eyes changed. His whole body language changed because it was shut down. It was literally just shutting his whole body down. He changed as a person. And so this is the craziest. I've seen this happen. And you talk about what's the craziest several times. And so there's kind of two things, right? There's RPR, all of it you do yourself. We go over vision. Be activated goes even deeper. So the craziest stuff I've seen is going through be activated, because we dive into emotion. And I mean,
yeah, it's the weird stuff where people end up crying and all kinds of stuff happens, right?
Yeah. I mean,
tell us more about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had that experience. I mean, I've had huge emotional releases. I'm talking just like uncontrollable crying and just crazy. Like, I didn't talk to my mom for 8 years. And through this work, literally, like I'm talking, I went through some crazy and so whatever's in your brain is in your body. So what you do with Be Activated is you start to get all these things set up and in the right line, and then you start to unlock things out of your body. Mm-hmm. And so the best way I can describe it for people is, psychedelics are very popular right now. I think I don't know, but in a lot of people I talk to.
Oh, yes, it's growing in popularity for sure.
So basically the way I try to describe to people who've done psychedelics is like going through Be Activated is like doing a psychedelic without a drug. And so you're on a journey, right? And so and I had this, right? And
I like a lot of this because I think that there are ways to access stuff. It doesn't always have to be with a drug. You can activate euphoria just by listening to a certain song, exactly. Or I mean, you could be overwhelmed with emotion driving down the street. Certain song comes on and start crying and reminds you of something, or you can kind of gain some access to these things, but having ways to be able to do it on cue and have a system for it, that's some real stuff right there. I mean, that's amazing.
I've seen just with that, I mean, just really crazy, people. Do you know what a neurogenic tremor is?
I do not know.
Okay, so again, I hate using big words, but I just don't know another way to do it. But I'll give you the simple. You ever watch the Discovery Channel and a gazelle's getting chased? Mm-hmm. Not Giselle, that would be a different channel. So a gazelle gets chased. It gets away from the lion. It goes behind a tree and it just shakes uncontrollably. That's a neurogenic tremor. What it is it's nature's way of ridding trauma from our bodies. So animals do this naturally. That's really socially unacceptable to do for us. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is all this trauma gets lodged in our bodies, lodged in our bodies, and we don't have a natural way anymore because of social convention to rid our bodies of it. And then you're introverted all of a sudden, right? And who knows, it might be something from when you were a kid, right?
Yeah.
And so my stuff, a lot of it was like, so you go to kind of the sexual abuse thing. Like I never even knew that happened until I started going through this process. And then it started to because there's huge chunks.
By the way, there's a lot of people that are like that where they know something happened, but they don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people in that.
Well, that is the thing, right? Is there's just large chunks of my childhood where even now I still don't remember. I mean, we're talking like I know stuff because I've heard stories, right? So you hear stories from siblings and things. And however, there's just these huge chunks that I didn't even remember. And so, but going through this process, you talk about the crazy stuff I've seen. It's definitely working with Be Activated because it's all hands on, it's practitioner based. And so what happens is it's with RPR. That's why I say RPR is just amazing. Like I said, like we're talking, 50% reductions in soft tissue injuries, people not having one soft tissue injury we were talking about crazy changes, and it's amazing. It's brushing your teeth. It's it's what you do every day to care for yourself because your nervous system, right? It changes instantly. It's like a light switch. So it's what you do to keep it where you need it. Be Activated, man. It's going to the dentist, right? And we start to do a little drilling. And that's one of the things with RPR. When we first started doing it, we were doing Be Activated. We really didn't have it figured out, right? Because we were just learning. So we would do stuff with people and we'd be like, this is RPR. And then we'd be doing drilling and they'd be like, whoa, I'm not ready for drilling. So now over time you see like, now it's just something that's like, oh, this is nothing. It's like showering or, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, I don't know, is this going to do anything? And boom, you're twice as strong, right? Yeah. You're like, and so I've seen so many crazy things where people literally, they get up off the table and they get rid of some trauma. And I'm talking like just shaking uncontrollably. Like I had this dude, like I'm talking shaking uncontrollably, foaming at the mouth, like just insane stuff, right? And
what is this from? Like, what's the practice look like?
And it's literally, so It's literally, it's going through this neurological philosophy and gaining stability for your body to allow these things to come out, basically.
And is it still like a physical practice?
Exercises?
Yeah. No. It's all so Be Activated is all hands on. So if you and I were going to do a session, I would lay you down and go through an entire sequence of things where I would be working on you. So it's practitioner based. It's not something you can do yourself.
Active release type of thing or something along those lines.
Yeah, it's different than that because it's all based on your nervous system and a philosophy. So here's the thing, what I'll say. It gets really complicated. The real simple of it is you would lay down and I would be rubbing on you in certain sequences in certain areas. That's the simple of it, right? Mm-hmm. And that may not make sense to people, and people be like, JL is crazy. That's cool. I know what I've seen. I know what I've felt. So you know what I mean?
Right.
The thing with RPR was Be Activated is just not scalable. Like I would have to lay you down and we would do work for like 2
And
hours.
I wouldn't remember what the hell you did.
Right. Yeah.
Even if I tried to show someone else or whatever.
You can't.
Take time.
Yeah.
Take a long time.
And so that's what's cool is with RPR. It's just simplified. You can do it all yourself. It makes you instantly stronger. It makes you less stressed. So you sleep better, all these things. So it gives you huge changes, but there's more, right? It's just like brushing your teeth and going to the dentist. There's more. And that's, for me, that I've seen so many crazy changes from, people literally, I'll tell you one that's really crazy. And it's 100% all RPR based. So I was at an event in Nashville, and there was a person who was administrating this event. It was a business thing, and very nice lady. She was limping crazy, and I mean, she was in a lot of pain. And she said, and I can relate to people in a lot of pain because I've been in a place where I couldn't get out of bed to go pee and had to pee myself in bed because I couldn't move. Right,
Shit,
and so. When you've been there, you get a lot more empathy and compassion for people who are hurting. And so I see her limping. I'm like, what's going on? She said, oh my God, my knee and blah, blah, blah. And I have to have it replaced, but I just don't have time. And she goes into this whole thing. So I said, you know what? I know the system. It's a system of daily self-care things you can do every day that will help reduce some of that pain and help you feel better. And she's like, show me. So literally we're at this thing. We go out in the hall. I lay her down. I start showing her, right? And so she's doing the breathing. She's doing the wake up drills. I'm showing her how to do everything. And we spend, 30 minutes, right? And I'm just kind of showing her how to do everything and go through. And she gets up and starts walking. And now while she's doing it, she's pouring sweat because her whole nervous system, the firing pattern's shifting. And so her body's on too. She just started, and I'm talking mascara's running. Right? Like she's pouring sweat, and I've never seen someone have a reaction like that. I've seen people sweat a little bit because everything changes and it shifts the way their nervous system's working. But this is like, I'm talking mascara running. And so she gets up, she takes 4 steps and faces. She's just like, oh my God, that pain's gone. And she literally just starts bawling because she's been in so much pain. And I'm just like, awesome. Just do that every day. Right? Because it's your nervous system. So you get stressed out, it can shift right back, right? Like those patterns can shift right back, but it doesn't matter because you know how to shift them where you need them. And that's the thing for me. Like a couple months ago, I have a 5-year-old. He just turned 5, so he was 4. We're going through Target. I've had 7 knee surgeries. My knee locks up. My kid, he loves Transformers. He's heading to the Transformer aisle, right? He's gone. He's heading to the Transformer aisle. I'm stuck because I can't move. So I got my breathing, my wake up drills, boom, I'm right back walking. Wow. Right? Like it's just, and that's the thing to me. Like when I tell people it's changed my life, I can't, it's like I don't have the words to really describe how much. And you talk about being introverted. I've seen people go from shy introverted to just being like, hey, what's going on? Yeah. Just a dude who like could never hug another person. Now every time I see him, he gives me a hug. Right? Like just crazy things like that.
What about like migraines or something like that?
So it's interesting. I've seen, with RPR, I've seen people who have migraines. I've seen that get better. I've also, there's some more Be Activated stuff that I've really seen work some big wonders, but it's not stuff you can do yourself. I've definitely seen some good changes from RPR with migraines. And a lot of what it is it's these patterns, and it creates implosion in the head. So we talk about basically your body needs to be an explosion, and it's putting force out into the world. And that's basically your head starts to get imploding, and it hurts, right? Like it hurts.
This gets me really, really curious because we just had Eddie Hall on, right? And Eddie Hall was talking about, pulling 1102 and the lengths he had to go psychologically to get there. He went to a psychiatrist who told him like these things that he could do to be able to activate all these different muscle groups that typically aren't activated. He said something like, typically you're activating 60, 70%. This allowed you to activate more, right? He went to a really dark place to do that. He said he was going blind and all these things were happening. And I guarantee that when people, especially high level individuals, listen to that, they're going to go try and find a psychiatrist to access some dark shit to be able to pull some heavier weight. I'm curious, when you were talking about activation here differently as far as RPR is concerned, and when you were doing those drills on me, like there's no fucking joke. When you were pushing me, I was pushing as hard as I could and I couldn't resist. Let's say high level athletes are able to get access to this. Would it have that same effect without the detrimental, I guess, what happened to Eddie when he was going in and out in terms of consciousness and all of that? Could this have a similar effect in your opinion? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, to me, I've seen it have the same effect. And so the way,
yeah, you would rage out under weights too. I mean, you
God.
lifted big weights, so yeah. What's the comparison there? You think?
So the way I look at it is, I look at it the difference, and maybe this makes, but so if you talk about going to these crazy dark places, and what happens is we get these huge bumps of adrenaline, and we get all these things, and it's good. But I look at that as hate fueled, and so you got a choice, right? It's like two paths. So when I look at Westside, my time at Westside, and everything at Westside I did, it was hate fueled. It was, I want to destroy everything. And I did. I destroyed my body, right? Like I destroyed everything. And relationships, right? I don't care if it's your birthday, honey. I got bench day, right? Like, I mean, just destroy everything. And so it was all hate fueled. And what the thing about hate is it can be a great motivator. Like, you own businesses. So like hate can be a great motivator. Like, you do this or you're fired. Well, hate is rocket fuel. And rocket fuel gets you a great place, but rocket fuel also explodes and it burns out really quickly. And this is what we're talking about in the NFL. You're 1 day or you're 10 years. So guys come in on rocket fuel, they make it 1 day and they burn out, right? So the way I look at RPR, it's allowing your body to fuel from a place of love. And so even the way I look at training, I used to train to destroy my body. Now I train because training is an expression of what my body can do. And it's because I train because I love my body and I want to be able to display all the amazing things it can do versus I want to destroy my body. And that place of fueling from love, the thing about love is it's never ending. And so that's when I look at these things, I look at, right, we can get to the same point, right? But if I get there by exploding and destroying myself, right, it's survival and it's performance. And so I can survive, right? I survived, right? I had a hernia, I have all this time at West. I survived. But did I truly perform, right? Steve Goggins gave me, for people who don't know Steve Goggins, he's a legendary powerlifter. And, we were doing an event a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, something.
First guy to squat 1,100 pounds. He did it right here at the WPO finals here in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, Steve's
at the Arnold.
Yeah, he's a legend. I mean, he's one of the greatest powerlifters of all time. And, Steve, 5 years ago or something, gave me probably one of the greatest compliments I've ever been given in my life. And he said, all the numbers that everyone's doing now, he said, I've never seen anyone that was stronger than you. If you would have just stayed healthy, you'd be destroying all these numbers. And I was like, man, that coming from that guy, dude, I was like, geez. And the thing about it was I couldn't, because everything I did was survival. And so if I could have came from that place of performance and been like, hey, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to do good things. I'm going to display what I can do. So 100%, you can access it, and you can access it in a better, more healthy way.
And you could probably have a combination. I think that just because
there's a yin and yang. You can't be all. So, and that's a great point, Mark. I mean, and you can't. So the way I look at it,
you could still, put, the locker room posts, I kind of call them, the New England Patriots do this they didn't win this year, but like they do it almost every year. Like, they're saying Brady's too old and, Belichick, won't be able to figure it out because they have the same players and they take these, newspaper clippings and put them in the locker room and they use that to fuel them. You could still have that. I think you could still have a chip on your shoulder. It's just, I agree with you though. It can, you might want to be a little careful with it. And also it's not a great thing to rely on. What you're teaching and talking about is much more reliable.
Well, and the way I look at it, like I've done a lot of work with different football teams and I was doing some research for a book and the thing about this is when you're in the locker room, a lot of people in locker rooms, you think about powerlifting meets and this and that, guys who are really successful never focus on another lifter. they just focus on themselves. I'm going to do what I do, because what you lift is what you lift, and where it lands is where it lands. The guys or gals who focus on someone else, they always end up getting hurt, going crazy attempts, bombing out. That's because like what we teach is basically we call it a 1, 2, 3 philosophy, right? So 1 is yourself. So if you don't have all the strength and stability within yourself, then you try to get it from zone 2, which is friends and family, or zone 3, which is everybody else in the world. So if you're lifting for the approval of everyone in the world, you're going to get hurt because you can't get everyone's approval, right? And so with this, in the locker room, there's 2 ways to be. And we've seen people like this in powerlifting meets or sporting teams, but it's like, we hate those guys. We're going to destroy those guys. That's hate field. Or I love everyone in this room so much that I don't want to lose. And I'm going to do my job to the utmost because I love and respect everyone in this room so much. That right there, that's what wins in athletics. It's what wins in life. It's the long-term play. The short-term play is I hate. And that.
Hey, what about using that strategy in war? Like, I hate the opponent so much, and you go running out and you go trying to shoot the enemy, and it's like, you're going to die. You're going to die fast, dude.
And
maybe you'll kill a couple people, but
right.
You're going to die quick.
Yeah, right. And that's, I mean, I've never served, but speaking to friends that have, right, like in war, you don't, the people that I've spoke to, obviously on a personal experience, they talk about like, they don't shoot the enemy because they hate the enemy. They shoot the enemy because they love the guy next to him so much they don't want anything to happen to him. And that's the thing, right? Like the guys that go in, and I've talked to some high level operators about this, like the guys who go in who are like, I just want to kill this, like they're going to burn out and they're going to get hurt. They're just going to get washed out. And so it's that concept, but I do think there's that yin and yang, right? Like, so all that stuff that was in me, it's still in me. The way I look at it now is that hate, that rage, that anger, it's a part of me. And so for me, I look at it like before, it's what controlled me. It's what controlled all my behaviors, how I acted, how I talked. And now it's inside me, but I have control of it. And that's a fuck ton more dangerous. Because someone messes with my daughter, right? Someone messes with my family. Right now, it's not out of control. Right? Like I've been stomping on people's faces, and if someone didn't pull me off of them, like I would have killed them, and literally would not have cared at certain points in my life. Now all that stuff, it's still inside me, but now I have control of it instead of it having control of me. And having control of that's the yin and yang. That's the power.
This reminds me of a Hulk from the new Avengers movie.
Oh yeah,
where Banner is like in control of the Hulk instead of.
So here's the deal, right?
Oh, snap. If you guys can't see this is the fucking Hulk on his arm. He has a tattoo of it.
So swear to God, right? We do these things inherently, naturally. Ever since I was a little kid, I identified with the Incredible Hulk. So I got that tattoo when I was 18 years old because I identified my entire life with the Hulk. And it's so funny as I've gone through this, I didn't know why. Right. But in college, I have a helmet at my house it's cracked because I was starting fullback, but if we scored quickly, I had to deal with the special team coach where I could run down and basically wedge bust and just crush people, and I would just spear people. And so I cracked my helmet spearing a dude, put him like he was out, like hospital, ambulance, the whole deal. And so I was so like, I was just always that. So, and I just resonated with the Hulk. And it's funny as I go through this, it's exactly, I mean, it's so funny that you made that reference. That it's so funny.
That's awesome. And I know that you have that tattoo. So when he said it, I was like, oh shit.
But it also seems like going the positive route can compound better than going negative, right?
Yeah. I mean, 100%. Right. And so when these patterns are working in the right way, right. So what you put out into the world is what you get back. I truly, truly believe that. Mm-hmm. And so
did you used to?
I didn't even know that was a thing.
But if someone told you that, you'd be like, fuck you. You'd probably punch them
in the face. Right? Guess what you just got?
Hey, JL, did you know that what you put out is what you're going to get back? You shouldn't be mean like that.
You just got, you got 2 less teeth. I don't know who you gave teeth to, but you just lost 2. Right. And that's really how it would have been. All this stuff I'm saying, 5 years ago, if literally, and so it's funny, right? People are going to listen to this podcast. This is at the end, right? But if people are listening to me 5 years ago, if I would heard a couple of trailers of some of the stuff we're talking about, I'd be like, this dude's full of shit. I wouldn't even listen to me, right? Like that's how crazy this stuff is. I wouldn't even listen. And so it's so funny to me because I actually, in my organization, there's some physiological things. You know how people cut on each other, rip on each other? It's this thing we always, I grew up, I'm good at it, right? Because I grew up in an environment where sarcasm was the preferred method of communication. I've gotten to a point now where I believe sarcasm is just thinly veiled negativity. And so ripping on people is actually you trying to gain physiological stability and superiority. No, and that's it. It's because you don't have safety within yourself. So think about an organization and just think about this, right? I'm not saying people have to change or do whatever. I have really worked to avoid doing that. I still do. I fall back to old patterns, right? I still do. I've really worked to not do that because if I see someone, right? So think about, you're in a group of friends and everyone's always cutting each other and everyone's laughing. It's funny because it's good natured. We all love each other. It's great. But really what it is it's just, everyone's trying to cut down each other's physiological safety so that they can feel safe. And so what if in that organization or in that group of friends, all of a sudden you walk in and instead of saying, why are you flexing your biceps? It's like, man, you know what? You're looking pretty jacked, dude, man. You've been training hard?
Yeah. He is flexing his biceps. So look at those.
But how different is that feeling for me? Now, it's funny, right? Like, it is funny, no doubt. But how different is that space that gets created from just now all of a sudden you're like, dude, like, Mark, man, you're looking really lean and jacked, right? Versus like, my old route would be like, oh God, you're being so queer. You're not powerlifting. You can't squat, right? Like I would just be cutting. I would be cutting
eat a sandwich, dude.
Yeah. Like, God, I mean, geez, you want another piece of lettuce next week, right? Like, so it's like, and so that's how I lived, right? I would cut people down nonstop. And so I just want to live in a place. I'll walk through airports now. And so I'm the most relaxed traveling. People are so stressed out in airports. I walk through the airport and it's like, if I see a girl with nice nails, or like, excuse me, I was like, those are really nice nails. Where'd you get those done? Those are great.
They're like, huh? Who's this guy?
Yeah. And so like, if I see someone with like a nice shirt or something, I'll be like, hey, that's a great shirt, right? Just, why not? Because I'm just going to give them a nice dose of, like, they put time, right? Like they wear like whatever you put time into working out, right? So it's like, I don't want to cut on that because that's part of that person's identity. It's something they care about. It's something they do. And so, because here's what I know now, and this is what you put out comes back. So if I'm just putting out just good stuff to people, then hopefully some good stuff, because quite honestly, I got a lot of years of putting out bad stuff to make up for. like there's a balance in the universe that's definitely tipped not in a good way for a lot of people's interactions with me. And I've had to apologize to a lot of people. Like people that just, maybe they were young in the field and like I was at the top of the game and I was a complete a-hole, right? And I've just been like, you know what, man? I was a dick, dude, and I'm sorry. Like that was totally uncalled for. There was no reason for that. And some people are like, no, man, I respect that. That's cool. And other people are like, I don't want to talk to you. And it's like, okay, I've said my piece and what you do with that's on you. And I can only do what I do. So 100%, man, what you put out, it's what you get back. And if you're putting out great things, I feel like that's what comes back to you. And, there's just a lot of environments where that constant cutting and that hate and this, and some of those environments like Westside Barbell, people look at them and they look up and they think that's the best way to be. But you know what they don't see? They don't see the closed doors, right? They don't see me going somewhere with Louie and having someone inject a needle this long into my spine and I still don't know what they put in my spine, right? Like they don't see that stuff. Right? They just see the West Side versus the world, right? Right. They see JL writing his name on the board and they're like, oh, I would like to be like that. No, man. There's a much better way to get to even better level of performance. And so that's why I think is we model these things, because some of these top performers, right? We take exceptions or we take things we don't fully understand or haven't gotten really to see what it really is. And then people model that and they think that's what it looks like. And for me, I just, I have a certain lens that I look at things now. Obviously I've talked a lot about it today and it's vastly, like I used to be the guy in the locker room that was just like, rah, like banging my head into the locker. And so, I mean, that was me,
Would you say that like maybe when you lift now that you're going to rely on your new knowledge, right? But you also still might rely on a chip on your shoulder kind of mentality, but it's just for yourself. It's not like you're grumpy, like fuck everybody else. Like I grew up this certain way, and it's not you being angry. It's just you wanting to prove more to yourself. So it's coming maybe more from like a positive way, or are you just like super, like just calm and relaxed and there's like no hype or no signs of anger or aggression at all when you lift?
No. So I would say, like, and this is one of the reasons I got back into jiu-jitsu, because I wanted to do something that, you know, I wrestled in high school. So, I mean, I was pretty good. I took second in the state. I mean, I was a solid wrestler, and I like jiu-jitsu. I love combat.
In Michigan?
Yeah. Yep.
That's really good wrestling right there.
And so, the thing about it was I got back into it because I wanted to do something that I didn't have to be the best in the world at, that I just enjoyed. There was great movement, and it, you know, it's like chess, you know, I mean, it's just wonderful. It's thinking, it's moving, it's doing all these things that I enjoy, and I'm going to compete. Hahowever, it's a challenge for me personally. So I don't know if you ever do different personality assessment things. There's
No, I haven't.
Like Myers-Briggs and stuff?
There's Myers-Briggs, there's DISC, there's a bunch of them. There's one I really like. It's called Cultural Index. I'm going to send it to you. It's awesome. I'll send it. It's great. I actually use it when I hire staff at the spot. I do a cultural index, and they have to fit within a certain thing, and then I know basically what their strengths and weaknesses are. And so it's awesome. And so I got mine, and the guy who's doing the results, he gets on the phone, and he's just laughing. I said, "What are you laughing about, man?" He goes, "Look, for everyone, there's different personality. You know, there's these things we've like the philosopher, right? The this, the that." And he goes, "Your profile is so extreme that there isn't a profile type. That your 3 standard deviations off the chart one way, and your 3 standard deviations off the chart the other way. And so those 2 areas are aggressiveness." And you can guess which way that one is. And the other one is patience. And you can guess which way that one is. And so literally he's just laughing. He's like, dude, he's like, basically what this test tells me is you would kill your own mother to win at something. But that's like, for me, it's like always being the best. So for me, like a personal practice and thing, because when I lift, I do still fall into those old patterns, right? I still do, right? I'm lifting, I'm good, I'm relaxed, and then something switch, right? It's a light switch. Something flips, and all of a sudden I go back to old JL, because it's like bar on my back, bar in my hand, right? And so for me, that was one of the things where I wanted to really get back to something that was just about enjoyment, and something where I didn't have to be the best in the world, and I didn't have this preconcept, right? Like, I know, right? I've benched 775, I've deadlifted 804, you know, I've put 1,000 pounds on my back, right? I've never gotten in a meet, right? 954 is my best, but so it's like, when I put a bar on my back, if I'm bench pressing, right, and I know that I've held 800 pounds over my face, right? So it is. So that's still something I'm working through. That's still something I'm working through, because it's hard to stay relaxed when I have all these old ways of doing things.
And as a strength coach, which I think is more of your beginning background,
For
right?
sure.
You know that all that's happening when we're lifting weights, you know, like all that's happening when you're benching 775, which looks crazy to somebody, 'cause it's like 8 or 9 plates on each side or whatever it ends up being. It will baffle people. They'll be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe, you know, someone was able to do that." But really, it's just an adaptation. It's just your body is adapted to a training stimulus over a period of time. You have adapted, you have kind of earned the right to be able to lift that weight that way. It wouldn't be any different if you went underwater and held your breath for 3 minutes. Like, you just somehow at some point you made yourself used to that. And then you might be able to do 5 minutes. And I think people can do like 10, like people can do crazy stuff, but it's really just an adaptation to it. If you're on the assault bike and you're going as hard as you possibly can, you said, "Give me a sprint 100% for a minute," right? That's just like,
there's no way. Yeah.
It's just like death, right? I think you can only sprint for just a few seconds, no matter what shape you're in. You start to kind of fall apart. But again, if you're just telling yourself, well, like, this isn't really necessarily hard. This isn't necessarily going to be anything that's going to kill me. Just my heart rate is increased. Oh, wow. Like, I'm breathing a lot heavier. Like, oh man, my legs are dead. But you can even switch your mindset, and you can start to concentrate on something else. If you think about specific things. JP Price yesterday, he's one of the few guys to walk out 1,000-pound squat and squat it. There's been people more recently, but he was one of the first. He was saying before he would do his big squats, rather than like being raged out and fired up and crazy, I'm sure his senses were heightened. I'm sure he looked like he was into it. And I'm sure that he kind of went up there with some vigor and some sort of aggression.
Well, right? He was potentiated.
Right.
Right. So that like potentiated a little bit of excitement, but still super calm.
Right. And then so when he unracked the weight, all he thought was step, step, because he was thinking about his 2 steps. Like if he could walk it out, he knew he could squat it. So he went to something specific, and there's a lot of science, a lot of research that talks about this. If you have something that you're really stressed out about, or you have a lot of anxiety, I don't know if you ever heard this before, but they say to do math or do something very specific. Think of something very specific. So in this case for him, it was step. When I was benching at one point, I would think when the weights were coming down, you remember how long my benches used to take?
Yeah.
Well, the way I was able to hang in there is I was able to think of something specific while I was doing it. I would think, push my knees out, because if I knew if I pushed my knees out, I would be in a better position. I'd be more up on my traps, and I would be kind of holding a position better. And once I focused on that, I'm like, as long as I maintain my position, once I get the weight to touch, eventually after 20 seconds or so, I'll be able to end up pressing it back up. Doesn't matter what the weight is.
Well, I think, and this is one of the things when we started teaching RPR, that people who we were teaching to got confused because they just went like, oh, this is it. This is the only thing. No. Everything you just talked about, use all of that, right? That's a great RPR. It's subconscious change. And then you still got to use all the great so this is the thing. It's not, you can't just do the body and forget about the mind, right? But you just can't do the mind and forget about the body. It works as one unit. And that, it gets down basically, if you guys, for listeners, basically there's, I think, therefore I am. Most people have heard of that, right? So Descartes.
Oh, great. Here we go.
No, so.
Another 2 hours.
No. So it's simple. Descartes, he says that. And right. And from that point, we'll call it 300 years ago, essentially what happened was Cartesian method of modern medicine started, which was psychology gets the brain and medicine gets the body. And literally for thousands, literally recorded history, everybody treated everything as one unit, right? So there's great Latin saying mens sana in corpore sano, sound mind and sound body. And everyone treated as one unit. So think about this is literally our healthcare. All these things are broke, all this stuff, all these things are these issues. But yet the way we're dealing with it is we've only done it this way for about 300 years. And for the past, 10,000, they did it together. And that's what we teach with RPR is you have to do all of that stuff, but you have to do the stuff for your body. You have to do the nervous system, the subconscious. Because again, what did I say? I said psychology is awareness, physiology is context. Well, context without awareness isn't any good either, right? These things have to be together.
All right. Well, now I have to ask this question because this sounds quite obvious. You are a believer in the multiverse theory, probably.
I watched Spider-Man. No,
is the Earth flat?
Well, some people think it is. And I'm not going to argue with them because I don't want to be confused in that conversation. And so, but no, here's I believe that, one, I'm good with what anybody believes, right? I just think awesome, right? Because what someone else believes doesn't impact what I believe, right? Now I'll listen, right? I've listened to some stuff on the flat earth stuff and I'm like, not for me. Right. And that's cool. I didn't think it would be, but how can I really make a decision unless I at least entertain, right? That. And so for me, the way I look, so when you look at the universe, essentially I think most people would agree that all energy can't be created nor destroyed. Right. I think most people would agree with that. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, then all energy that has ever existed exists today, which means it's just switched and changed. And so I think there's a lot of that if you look back through thousands of years, they really channeled a lot of that type of work. And people now kind of poo-poo it and say this, but now if you look at what they're doing with quantum computing and some of these things where they're actually going, wait, we can do some things with this stuff. And when you look at quantum mechanics and all this stuff, they're starting to actually be able to prove. Now, the people who are doing it are way smarter than me, right? I can show you guys some crazy stuff that'll blow your mind that uses the theory of it and some other things. And I can show you cool results. I can't explain why it all but so I don't know if I believe in the multiverse. I definitely believe here's what I believe. 5 years ago, before I learned any of this, I thought I understood 95% of what was going on in the body and the world. As I sit here today, I understand probably 2 to 3%. That's what I believe. I just believe that I can't know what I don't know. So if you say you believe in the multiverse and you got a good reason for it, look, tell me what your reason is. I don't know if that's what I'll believe, right? But I just know at this point, there's so much I know that I don't know that I just have a hard time arguing with people about stuff.
That's a great way of looking at it. 2 or 3%, and it's only 2 or 3% of what you're able to know.
Yeah,
because no one will ever know everything. I mean, right? So.
No, and hopefully, right? We podcast in a year from now, I'm at a solid 1 to 2% because it means I've learned more, right? Like it's exposed stuff that I didn't know,
right?
So, I think with people, you know, and this is kind of what I'll finish with, and this wraps up essentially kind of my whole like the philosophy thing, and this isn't RPR. This is just where I've got. Right? This is just where JL's got. Right. The reason I've gotten there is because I do RPR every day, and I'm able to sit in a space where I can think about things and not just be like, ah. And so really, so this is crazy. I never drank coffee my entire life. I was just like, rah! And so like, I was like, who needs coffee? This is ridiculous, right? Like,
Mike Tyson said that too. He's like, you don't want me to drink coffee.
Right? Like, I don't, like what? Like, and so this is kind of the last thing that I'll leave on. We've gone over, which is, it's been awesome stuff. So the way that I work to really go about everything, including, you know, coming here to do this podcast or anything I do in life at this point, I really, really focus on not having any expectations. And my reasoning for that is that expectations end in 2 outcomes. 1, the thing I wanted happens, or 2, failure.
Disappointment, yeah.
Disappointment. And so when I thought about this a lot, I thought, well, wait a minute. So I'm obviously super high win, I'll push. So the thing I want to happen, I'll make happen. I'll make that happen. Regardless, if I have to break my back, I'll make it happen. But the thing is, I can only think of a finite amount of possibilities. If I go in with no expectations, there's an infinite amount of possibilities that can happen, and I can never be disappointed with what happens. And so for me, that's how I live. Like, I was in Austin. I got my car towed a couple of weeks ago. I was having dinner with a friend and I got towed, and I walked out and my car got towed. Now, old me, someone would have got knocked out, but I just walked out and went, all right, I guess the universe wants my car to get towed. And then I just literally went. I was like, okay, where do I get it? Just went on and just got it and went on with my day. And to me, I don't have an expectation that my car is going to be there, or I'll say I work to not have that, because obviously, right, I fall into old patterns. And when I do, and I saw that, I instantly felt, right? When I saw my car was gone, I instantly started to go, and I went, whoa. And I went and started doing my breathing, my wake up drills.
Yeah, self-awareness.
Yeah, I just started doing my breathing, my wake, right? Because it's psychology and then the physiology, right? And I bring the RPR in, boom, and then I'm just walking.
Could also be like, this is going to be fun.
Right,
like,
yeah.
You're saying to yourself, you know, I'm kind of screwed, you know? I need to figure out how to get my car back, and
but I don't even,
not worrying about it, not, you know,
I don't even look at it like that. I don't even say, and this comes to zero expectations. I don't look at my car being towed as a good or a bad thing. It's just a thing. And because I believe that the universe has such a bigger plan and I can't imagine the plan it has.
So it's a thing and not even like an inconvenience necessarily.
No, because
it's just your interpretation of it.
What about this, right? And but what if I would have gotten my car and I would have turned and got T-boned and killed? And that was just the universe's way of changing my route. Right? I don't know, right? I don't know. I can't know. No one can know. But that's a possibility. And if that's a possibility, how can I get mad at that?
What if it's just the world being against you, though? Like it used to be.
Well, that was, right? It was, everyone was against me. And now I'm just like, it just is what it is, man. So I appreciate you having me on, brother. This was awesome.
Yeah,
I love
so
it,
good
man. To keep up, man.
Yeah, this is
it's been too long, man. It's been too long. So, and it was great obviously getting to know you guys as well. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So
where did you, your language on this is really, really clean. You know, there's probably not one spot where you learned a lot of stuff. But if you could point and reference people to maybe a few guides, books, podcasts, videos, mentors.
Mark Bell's podcast. That's where I learned everything.
There we go. Yeah. If you have any suggestions on, you know, some stuff that you maybe picked up over the last 2-3 years that you think has been really, because again, like the way that you're wording everything is very digestible, very understandable. So it'd be great to know if you have some resources that you could share out.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, so all this stuff is just tons of rabbit holes that I've spent a lot of time with. And the cool part is I'm actually now in a space where I can just sit and think about things, which is really cool. And so for me, one great, obviously, you know, our online course, reflexiveperformance.com, if they go there and do our online course, I'm updating. So a lot of this stuff I've been spending a lot of time with. So what's great about the online is it updates. It's evergreen. So there's language on there that's, you know, a year old. And now next month we're reshooting and I'm updating all the language because I've find better ways. The other thing I would say is, on Instagram, it's coach_JL. I post a lot of just, this is how I think about this stuff. So I work through a lot of stuff on there. Right. And
I hope that everyone picks up from you that you have really worked for a long time on, mastering, like being a better coach. And I think that maybe some trainers and sometimes some coaches maybe are kind of like missing that. They continue to search for like kind of like what they're interested in, which is great. And that you're obviously going to do that all the time, but being able to provide people with more information that they would be interested in, that's going to help them to, kind of get to the next level is really critical. And when I saw, Nsima sent me some links, when he sent me some of the links to what you guys have, you have like these 30-second, 90-second, 60-second videos. There's like hundreds of them. And I thought, man, this is great because it was so clean and so smooth. And you mentioned in the video, you said, hey, I want to just speak in as little as words as possible. And you were showing the guy that you were showing your client basically how to even coach it back to you. And he coached it back to you. You made a small correction and said, well, we still want to say it in like a shorter pattern, but the video is still only 30 seconds or so.
Well, I think, one of my favorite sayings is if you can't explain it simply, you simply don't understand it. And, the thing with that is simple is not easy, right? The simplest thing in the world, squat 1,000 pounds. You put 1,000 pounds bar, you go down, you come up. Simple. Ain't easy. And so I've spent just thousands of hours thinking on this stuff and sitting and it's been a process. And so, as far as resources, I think, reflexiveperformance.com, they can do our online course, coach_JL on Instagram. I post a lot of just walking through a lot of this stuff. Cause for me, it's like I said, man, the amount of messed up stuff that I've gone through in my life, that's its whole own deal, right? The bottom line is because I've gone through that, like, I don't want other people to have to struggle as much as I did, right? If I can provide a couple answers for someone, like the 25-year-old JL, right? If I can help the 25-year-old JL maybe get arrested a few less times for assault, right? Like that's some good in the world. And as far as books, I really, there's some great, The Oxygen Advantage is just a wonderful book, that I really like. There's so many great books. I think that, one of the things that, is, and this is going to come from a totally different place. So there's actually a book that I've read recently that is one of my favorite books I've ever read, and it's called Love Does. And so it's not on training. It's not on,
I think it's clear though that your language comes from somewhere else. That's why I was asking.
Yeah. It's not on, it's not on parasympathetic nervous system, which I've read lots on that, right? I've read lots on vision. I've read lots on light therapy. I've dove down all those rabbit holes, right? And so, I can tell you that certain teeth correlate to different organs, right? Like I've read all that. But what Love Does to me, and that's a book I would recommend. It's by a guy named Bob Goff, and he just lives his life in just an amazing way. And for me, I read that book and I just went, I didn't know this was possible. And one of the other one, this is another thing, Crucial Conversations. I read Crucial Conversations when I didn't know that a human being could communicate this way, right? Like you could
flat out tell someone what you want and how you want it to be done, and they'll do it.
I didn't even know that was right? It was silence or violence, right? Like those were my modes. And in the book, they say, in Crucial Conversations, they say silence and violence. And I went, yeah, that's how I do it, right? There's a different way? Like, there's a different way. And so those would be just three off the top of my head. Kind of Oxygen Advantage is more the science based. Love Does is just a general life based, and then Crucial Conversations is more tactical, right? So I think that's three, nice kind of rounded for people, and they're ones I enjoy.
To get over some of the stuff that you did go through, did you ever get any consulting, or did you ever see a therapist or anything like that?
Nope. And the thing is I've done different counseling and therapy at different points in my life, and I've been married twice, and so some different things, and none of it ever helped, because part of it is people may look at me and not know this, but I'm a very intelligent person. And so I can feel what people want to hear, and I know how to give them what they want. And so when I did that stuff, I just knew how to guide the conversation. And then we walked out of the room and I was like, peace. And they're like, I'm so good. I'm a great therapist. I was like, yep. And so it just never worked for me. Part of it was because I never really thought I needed a change.
And at that time, you were probably you weren't open to it. Yeah.
No. And this is the thing is I think therapy is great. Whatever works for anybody, do it. Right? When people talk like, oh, I jumped out of a window and it changed my life. Awesome. Right? Like it doesn't, whatever works for people, I'm good with, because that's part of it. Is people are like, what's the science? Did it work for that person? Great. Then who cares? Right. And so for me, I just, that's the most amazing part to me in this is that I didn't want to change. I didn't try to change. I didn't talk to anybody about changing. The person that's sitting here today with all the different thoughts and the way I think about things and the philosophy I have today literally came because my physiology changed, and it just changed the way I thought. And that's literally it. And sometimes I tell people that and they, kind of don't, you know what I mean? Like, which is cool because they don't have to get it. Because
your relationships with everybody must have changed drastically, right?
Dude, it's so much better, man.
Like you're seeing everything through a totally different lens, right?
I mean, just my kids. I mean, that's probably the biggest one. I got 3 kids, man. And I got a 14-year-old who now he saw me yelling, right? And I got a 9-year-old who saw me yelling, right? Because this change has been the last 4 years. So she's 5 years old, and I mean, we talked about this. She deleted 2 days of my work, and I'm talking broke the dining room chair, kicked a hole in the front door. I mean, she's seen me just lose my stuff. And it's my 5-year-old has never seen it. The way he talks and does stuff is different. And so it's literally, I have to have conversations with my 9-year-old and my 14-year-old where they'll yell at him, and I'll say, guys, it's not how we communicate. That's not kind words. Let's do this. And, and as I'm doing this, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I can ever be angry at these because they learned to do that from me. That's how I used to communicate. And so now I'm actually trying to change the way they do it. And it's funny because we do, my daughter, we were riding in a car. She was fighting with a friend. They're in the back seat and whatever 8-year-olds fight over it. It was last year. And, it was great because we're driving the road, blah, blah, blah. And I go to say something and my daughter goes, wait, we got to do our belly breaths. and literally she starts walking the girl. They do five belly breaths. And she's like, okay, now rub here. Like literally she knows, like she's around it all the time. And she sees me doing it and we do, and so like literally, and then they're not fighting, right? Like I was like, this is the greatest day ever, right? And so for me, like my relationships with my staff and look, 100%. Sitting here, it's very easy for me to sit in this new pattern and think and do this. When I go into a gym, right? When I go into work, when I do these things, it's a constant working, right? And sometimes I have to apologize to my staff. Hey guys, sorry, that was some old patterns, right? But I know, right? I'll say something that's not good and I'll do something, but then I'll come back, right? And I'll say, hey guys, sorry, that was wrong. Because I had to walk into my staff and go, hey guys, look, my entire life, I've been a dick. And I wasn't a dick because I wanted to be a dick. Like, I love you guys. I think you guys are amazing. Like, the staff we have at the Spotify are just amazing people. We've always had amazing people there. Because we always pushed it, right? We want to be world class and everything. And I'm always pushing education and doing all this. So the people like, we have 2 interns that, move for unpaid internships, one from Missouri and one from North Carolina, right? Like, we get people that want to come and learn all the time. And we're always pushing that envelope. But they had to put up with a lot to get that knowledge. And the thing is like, why, right? Why? And so, here's what I'll say, right? I'm not saying any of this stuff to say that I've completely changed and I'm better and I'm this and no, I'm a work in progress, right? My hope is that in 5 years from now or in a year from now or 6 months from now, I have even less return to those old patterns, but I still do, right? It's what I talked about with our power. It's not how long does it last. It's do I know where it is? Do I know how to get it where I want it to be? And because I have that tool to do it, when I do go back, I can just switch it right away. And that's, to me, that's where the magic is I just can do that myself right away.
Awesome. Take us on out of here, Andrew.
JL, well, thank you so much for everything, man. I'm blown away by a bunch of the stuff that you were talking about. Real quick, though, when I seen Cal work on some of our guys and, you guys are doing the arm tests and stuff, I instantly started thinking about those hologram bands or whatever. I was like, dude, if those guys had RPR in their arsenal, they would still be in business. Because like some of the stuff that you guys were doing, like that's what they would try to do, but they have like their circus tricks or whatever. But is there anything that can amplify RPR? Like can a hypervolt, like the percussion massager, can that be used instead of like your hands? Or?
Well, so it's interesting you say that. So we worked with a lot of that, and there's a frequency that it has to resonate at to really get the most effect.
Got it.
So the things that are out there right now, again, I'm coming to California in a month. I could walk to California. That would be effective, right? It would. It just wouldn't be the most efficient way. And so with the guns, the way the frequency, there's some effect if you do RPR with it, but it's way better. So ironic that you say that. In the next probably 2 months, and I can't say a lot now because of some stuff, but we're working with a company on something, on a gun that has the correct frequencies and has everything. So in the next 3 months, like this is not something I can't get into specifics, but in the next 3 months, there will be something that you can put in your hands that operates, that will be an optimal frequency to be able to do all the stuff that we're doing. So we're really excited about, we're super, super excited about it. We've been working on this for a while and we're getting really, really close. So, having a guy like Cal, who's a mad scientist, and Chris Corfus, who probably none of the listeners have ever heard of because he's a sprint guy. But I mean, this dude, like he goes to New Zealand, he's with England Rugby, England Rugby, started using RPR, and they beat the All Blacks in the World Cup. And they sent us an email, they're like, dude, we love RPR. Like not that that's why they won, but they're like, it was a big part. Yeah. And so now this summer they want Chris to just travel just so they get more knowledge on RPR. Right. And, so he's amazing, man. He's a savant. And with those two guys, like bumping through on the research and all this, and then, the three of us worked so well as co-founders, because for me, like I love the business side. I love the messaging side. I love basically how do we make this something that we can get out to people. I love helping people. Like at the end of the day, right? Like I have 3 values in life, right? And so for me, it's always searching, which obviously with this, help people, and details create excellence. And those 3 things for me is what, put together with Cal and Chris and their amazing minds. Like like I said, I'm really excited about what we're going to be coming out with, because it is going to be something that we can put in someone's hands. It's something that is just going to make everything so much easier. So when that comes out, I'll be super excited. We'll definitely talk some more.
Yeah. If you need some test dummies,
I love it. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, thank you. Make sure you guys are following the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram. My Instagram is at IamAndrewZ, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. Thank you everybody that's been rating and reviewing on iTunes. Make sure you're subscribed to YouTube. We got a Facebook and all that. Nsima, your biceps look great.
Thank you, Andrew.
Where can people find you?
At Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Mark?
At Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch y'all later.